long form video, usually it's like I just start rambling.
Okay.
Until like my thoughts start to crystallize, and then when I play it back, I find the chunk I want.
And then you do the chunk you want, and then try to repeat that, or do you just this is what I want to put out there?
I'm always one and done.
Okay, cool.
One and done.
Good.
Because usually it starts with like a thought that I already have in my head that I've like been mulling over.
Yeah.
And so usually by the time I get it out, it's just it's shaking off the discomfort of being on camera first.
Yeah.
You know, because that's usually the hard part. You're sitting in front of the camera and you see the time starting to tick, and you're like, how do I start?
Yeah.
And then it's like, hi, this is Troy.
What's up? This is Chris.
You know, and it starts to turn into awkward stuff.
I do mine. I'll do a 2-minute long format thing.
Yeah.
I'll listen to it, and then I'll say, all right, I like this and I like that. Let me do it again. And then I'll start cutting the fat.
Okay.
And then I'll do like 5 takes.
Okay.
But every take, I feel like it's just more crystallized.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, I guess I speak kind of like I write. Like when I write, it's usually just stream of consciousness. Like I don't really go back and edit. You know, I'll go back. Like if I write a post, for example, it's usually because I have a thought that just needs to get out, so I'll write it.
Yeah.
And then the only editing I usually do is I go back to make sure my grammar's right and like sentences actually hit, like they make sense.
Yeah.
But I kind of let it. It usually doesn't take a whole lot of editing after that.
It's funny you say that it's kind of like you're writing, because number one, you're really good at it.
Thank you.
And so obviously the intention is there and the consciousness is there. For me, I just don't do it enough. So it's very much like the way I speak. So I'll write and then I'll say, what the fuck am I trying to say here?
So what the fuck are we trying to say here?
We're trying to say, and so this one is specifically for just like, I want this to be for friends and family who either need this or know someone who needs this. And the reason I want to put this out first is because instead of like just putting it out to the world and who wants to do this, who's ready to drop the cash and just go in, like I want the right people to be a part of it. I want the people who have been looking for something with sustenance and people that trust us to say, yes, this is something that I want to be a part of.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you think is at the crux of what it is we're trying to do?
I think so. The idea came to me because I had a very powerful change from one day to the next. I think it was like September 5th. I said, that's it. I'm gonna prioritize myself first and foremost. And then it was tough at first, but 2 months in is when I realized I got the thing. I'm good. It's from here on out. It's not smooth sailing, but it's guaranteed to continue to go in that direction, in this upward, forward, progress direction. And it hasn't stopped since then.
And I'm going to add something to that because it's amazing to hear from the inside out what you feel, but I think it's important. I tell you this all the time now recently, right? It's, I think, important to understand from the outside looking in what I see, because I think that's one of the things that's most valuable is that you made that decision. But what I see people struggle with, and usually where the shortcomings happen and why they fail, is because no one empowers them to make the decision for themselves, right? Often, we don't even know how to make that decision because we don't know what our intention is. We don't know what we want out of it.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're usually living, and I can say this, I think, because I'm a corporate hack. I was. And I got used to living a life on someone else's time.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is your life is entirely borrowed. It's borrowed from someone else's needs, everybody else's needs around you first. And so we're never empowered to make the decisions for ourselves.
Yeah.
First thing that needs to happen is you need to be taught how to do that.
Yes.
Or at least rediscover how to do that. Because I don't think it's something we don't have. I think it's something we forgot.
Yeah.
And you made that decision back in September because you knew you could, which most people don't know that they can.
Yes.
And I think the power of what we're trying to do is show people that they can. It's like, and that's why I'm liking this phrase of like returning home, because we spend so much time up in our head because of that borrowed time and not enough time here.
Yeah.
And it's only when we get our time back in here that we can start to figure out how it is that we want to navigate our life.
Yeah.
You know, and then add to that, you also had the tools around you. You had the right people. you had the right education, you had the right inspiration, the right insight, the right variability around you to choose and pick what you thought was going to be most applicable to the goal you put in front of you.
That's a fact.
If you don't diversify the things around you, then you're never going to get there. Because you can still make a decision because you have confidence to do it, but if you don't have the tools, then you're never going to get there. So I think that's another beautiful component of what you're building that does it. It diversifies. It's not one dude trying to sell you six-pack abs. It's bringing a community around you so that you can learn as much as you possibly can in a short amount of time for yourself so that you can take action on it.
Fact.
So talk a little bit about that. Like there's diversity in this.
Yes.
Where does that come in?
Yeah. So I like that you pointed out the six-pack abs because, and again, and this is why I say this has to be for the right people, right? I'm not taking 30, 40 people. I'm not saying, hey, we're going to lose this much weight. It's people who are ready to commit to themselves, to who are looking for a resource, who trust that we can be that resource. And so we're going to do it by educating everyone on what to do, what not to do, what to avoid, the truths, the myths, taking everything that hasn't worked in the past and figuring out why it hasn't worked and how we can make sure that moving forward it's something that we can stick with forever. Whenever I teach, I always tell my students or my class, hey, I need to teach you one thing today that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life. If I didn't do that, I didn't do a good job. And I think that for the next 8 weeks, you can receive that from our coaches, from us, from the experts that are going to be joining us in the webinars. And it's exactly what you said. Some people just don't know, don't have the resource, don't have the knowledge to put this into practice in a sustainable way to really make that change. I made that decision knowing 12 years, 15 years of experience that I had, knowing everything that I actually needed to do to make sure that it worked. And then all it took was the will to do that. Right? For a lot of people, they have the will to do it, but they don't have the knowledge to do it. So they get started and they go all in and then they hit a wall and then it's, okay, now what? And so we're going to be able to hear from experts in the field, nutritionists, mental health experts, stress management, strength and conditioning coaches, flexibility, lifestyle design. We're going to have these classes that are going to teach you, empower you, guide you.
Unlock you.
Unlock you. I love that. Yes. So that when we let you go, you have the reins and you will feel empowered. You'll have the knowledge. You'll have the tools to succeed. And I keep saying this, I believe that 2 months of all this information, unpacking it, learning it, absorbing it, living it, can make the difference to like it'll get you the best fitness year you've ever had. Like I've been in the game for 15 plus years. And in those 2 months where I decided that this is what I was going to prioritize, I'm stronger than ever.
Crushed. You've crushed.
And it hasn't stopped. I'm 4 months into training.
I think one thing that's really important to underscore is, because I don't even think we've said the word yet, you've hinted at it, is the longevity aspect of it, right?
Truth.
I really believe, look, there's all these options, especially this time of year, like do this quick, do that quick, this 8-week program, this 3-month program, whatever. It's not to knock any of that. What I have an issue with, or I think falls short, is the intention people go into those things with. Because, hell, if you want to have fucking mass glutes and great quads, go for it. But know you're doing it for the right reasons, right? And I think I'll go back to, I think that's where people fall short, is that they can't get to the point of having these things for a long period of time for longevity's sake because they're in it for the wrong reason. Whereas if you teach people that this is ultimately about honoring yourself, loving yourself, and giving yourself the respect you deserve as an incredible human being that is able to heal, to adapt, to strengthen, to condition, then suddenly the mentality you're going into these types of things starts to shift. Because what tends to happen is I go after this 6-pack ab program or this lose 30 pounds quick program. because I'm actually going into it from a place of shame. I feel guilty that I've had bad habits.
Yes.
I am shameful that I look a certain way.
Fact, yeah.
And the only reason I feel that guilt or that shame is because I'm living based on other people's standards, not my own. So what we're doing is we're teaching people and giving people enough tools so that they can decide what their own standards actually are.
Yes.
And they end up loving themselves as a consequence, which means that even after these 8 weeks, they now have the toolkit available to them where they can keep this going for the rest of their time. Why? Because we didn't tell them all the answers. We told them how to find the answers for themselves.
I want to add on top of that because this is why I came to you. I could have done this on my own. I could have said, TKO, 8 weeks, I'll find the people. But I think the other powerful piece is that we're all going to be connected. We're all going to go through this together. We're all going to have conversation. We're going to have access to one another. We're going to talk about the struggles along the way, all through the Telegram app. And I wouldn't be surprised, man, if somewhere down the road, 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, people just want to meet up and do life and talk and like.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Look, it's it's kind of this strange taboo.
Yeah.
Because, in the fitness world, it's so it's almost hard, right? It's about hard work, that paying off, train hard and see the benefits of that. But I struggle with that personally because that wasn't the answer for me. When I did that and I approached it that way, I ended up hurting myself in the long run. Yeah. Whereas if I realize that there's also an important side of the softness in it all, the vulnerability in it all, the human aspect of it all, that's ultimately the part that opens you up to realize that there's a lot to learn and a lot of richness in what's available to you, which goes back to this not being something that A, it's going to damage you, A, perhaps send you in a downward spiral, B, perhaps be short-lived and actually make it something that's going to long last and yield deeper connections, a deeper understanding and appreciation for self, and those types of things. And I don't like that the fitness world doesn't like talking about these things. Yeah. There should be a softness to us because at the end of the day, it's that coming home again, right? It's no, I need to love myself in order to succeed. And if I don't, and no one's teaching me how to do that, guess what? I'm just going to be on that fucking hamster wheel like the rest of my life is, and I'm going to be doing my reps and my sets to no end, and possibly not even seeing any results out of it, or at least not the results I ultimately want. Versus grabbing the reins, taking control of my own life because I have the right stimulus around me. And now even when I'm set free, so to speak, I still know what to do, because I've been, empowered with those tools, and I think the connectivity part of it is a huge part of that. So rather than wishing for that to happen, I think that would almost be an expectation, because you'll start to realize you're not in it alone and you can't do it alone, and other people need to be there for you.
I know I can't do it alone. We got a good team. We got some good leaders. And this is for you, the person that it just clicked right now, and let's go.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we can't help but see the world and people through a lens that we just see the best parts of them, even when they can't see them themselves. And I think so much of the energy that's gone behind this is about that. It's like, again, we use the word empowering a lot, which perhaps is a cliche, but it really means something, right? In that it's about leading yourself back to yourself so that you can actually take the reins and do stuff for yourself, because you are powerful, you are able, you are capable. You just have to start to believe that you are, take action with that sort of perspective and initiative. And once you have that, you're stopless. There's nothing that can get in your way.
And you're going to end up with a 6-pack, boy. Let's go.
Yep, let's go.